if I could have everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And before we say, it is September 11th. I'd like to pause for a moment of silence for the victims, first responders, and everyone who was involved on that horrible day. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a presentation from Ms. George. Roll call. Forgot roll call. Skip one thing. You're up next, though. If you could do roll call, please. Sorry.
Mr. Bosbach?
Here.
Ms. Hildebrand?
Here.
Mr. Hoskins?
Here.
Mr. Bob Jones?
Here.
Mr. Tony Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Shaw?
Here.
And student representative.
Here.
Thank you.
Calendar?
Yes, sorry. I don't know why I'm just jumping everything. If you could please call the calendar.
Oh,
it's out of order.
no,
That's
my
why.
bad, my bad.
So we will do our presentation. So
What happened to your, Dr. O'Shea? You were going to be first.
No?
he's got a
Okay.
superintendent
I'm
report a
not-
little bit
Oh,
Give you
later.
the
okay.
superintendent's report
Yep.
that comes after your
Okay,
presentation.
so I thank you all for letting me come here. I made a big deal of thinking it was important to talk to the school committee because you didn't pay me to go away last year, but you gave me permission. Actually, you did pay me, so thank you very much. You paid me too, thank you very much. I had the most phenomenal time. And it's fitting that I'm talking to you tonight, the night before we have a professional development for teachers, because what I did last year was personal professional development. I learned so many interesting things. I was just telling Sue, I said, okay, I'm ready, because last year the embassy would say to me, you have to go here and do this with these people, and I did it, and it suddenly became cool. I did it like 2 or 3 dozen times. And so I had the chance to go very far away. This is something I love to do, is to travel very far to crazy places. I went to Tajikistan, and if life had worked out better, I would have a map of the country right here. Imagine that there's a map right there. And so it's in the middle of Central Asia. And I was chosen to go there as a English language fellow. It's a State Department program that's just like the Peace Corps. It may be even more prestigious than the Peace Corps, because everyone who participates has to have gotten a master's degree in teaching English as a second language. So you're not 22 years old. You have to be a little older than that, have had a little experience. They send people to developing countries, only developing countries, and I determined that it was for 3 reasons: strategic, economic, or military. And Tajikistan, definitely all of Central Asia, is a strategic place we want to be friends with. So I got to go there, and the embassy said to me, often they said, this is soft diplomacy. And I thought, yeah, me, a diplomat? How could that possibly be? Some of these people know that I sometimes speak wrongly at the wrong time, or speak inappropriately at the right time or the wrong time. Anyhow, I was a diplomat, and it was really exciting. I got to teach people civics, which was very interesting, because when I first got there, you'll see his picture. He's my man. The president of Tajikistan, Mr. Emomali Rahmon, he's been the president for 27 years. 27 years, because he changes the rules all the time. And when I first got there, I thought, okay, I'm going to trick him. I'm going to trick these people, and I'm going to get somebody to say, you know, he's nuts. But not a single person said a bad thing about him, and so I started to love him too. He's everywhere. You can't avoid him. He's built all the bridges. He's built all the roads. He's built all the schools. He's everything. He's done everything. But at the same time, I could talk to people and say, you know, there's a lot of things about my government that I don't like. And I can tell you that because I live in a democracy, and that's what you can do in a democracy. You can say what you think and what you like. And I said that over and over again, and maybe that little bit of civics hit somebody somewhere, along with all the grammar and all that other junk. But that was a fun thing. I don't have my watch on, so I don't know. I know I only get 10 minutes. This is 4 minutes. So you all paid for me to go. The total amount, it's not clear to me, but it was about $50,000 value. And I got to go to India for a conference, was required. I got to go to Kyrgyzstan for 2 conferences that were required. I got to go to Uzbekistan for 10 hours because the president doesn't like people coming into his country, so he makes it hard to get in and out. And I got to go to Uzbekistan. And all of those places are on the Silk Road, and that's why this bag of white balls is here. These have a lot of fun nicknames, but this is an ancient food. And, well, this isn't ancient. This is modern, but it was a Silk Road food. And in fact, I get this news feed called Ozy, O-Z-Y, and just 2 days ago there was an article exactly about this and how it's an amazing food. They also said you might want to use it for beer pong, but that's another story. This is fermented yogurt. You salt it, you dry it, you put it in your saddlebag, you can travel across the deserts with it. You can eat it as a snack, you can reconstitute it, and it's not bad. And it's like 3,000 years old, they've still been making it. What food do we have that's that old? Nothing. It's not bad, it's different from what you might expect. And I've cut it up into little pieces. The first time I had it, I got a bigger one than this, and nobody told me. Nobody told me what it was going to do to my mouth. And it was quite the shock. Quite the shock. I'm so glad I had tea to... Anyhow, so what am I doing? I'm pushing what?
Lower left corner, there should be a play button.
Lower left corner. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just made this short and it didn't work. There's a lot of...
Is it touch or you have to
No.
do it on the?
Oh, you need this too.
I'll give you a few more minutes pushing it, but I'll show you how easy it is.
It's not a giant
Thanks.
I was just pointing.
So that's my man. This was at the university. And there were fashion police at this university. And notice the fashion, how nice it is. This was a typical classroom with typically broken furniture. And lots of people did work like this in town, which I found amazing. They were always building new sidewalks, ripping them up, building new ones. I bought that from her. This is a Turkmenistan outfit. A wedding outfit after the wedding. So that and this are the national fabric. This is a herd of goats. They block the roads all the time. The curse of my life. That's the national dish, that rice dish. Can I stop it? How do I stop it? Where's that stupid thing?
That stops it.
Oh, is that?
Pause it.
Okay, I wanted to stop it before that. So I have two songs at the end. One is a group of kindergarten children, maybe preschool, in a city that takes 2 hours, no, that's a lie, 2 days to drive to. Because you have, if you're traveling with the U.S. Embassy, you have to stop in the middle because it's so dangerous. The road is about as wide as 2 tables. And one side is gravel that will fall down on you, and the other side is a river that you will fall into. That doesn't stop the 18-wheelers, because it's the main highway to China and to Kyrgyzstan. But we went to this town in November, and I got to work with children, with 3 teachers in school number 2. And one of the teachers invited me to her classroom that had carpets on the floors because it was cold already in November, and the kids were wearing socks, and they sang this song. It was the cutest thing, it was the cutest thing. And the last song, which sort of jars at the beginning, when did we hear that? April. We went to another remote place that took about 4 or 5 hours to get to, and there were 3 groups of teenage students. And these 3 groups, all in the middle of our observations and talking with the teachers, all three groups jumped up, like all of a sudden they jumped up and they started singing the Nifty 50. Anybody know the Nifty 50? And all 3 different classrooms, they started singing the Nifty 50. And I challenge you to understand the Nifty 50, but appreciate their enthusiasm. And know that they are one of the effects of my journey, because starting before the end of this month, students at North Kingstown High School and at least one group of students at DMS are going to be pen pals with kids like these, which I think is, it's like, I can't believe how exciting that is. Let's see if we can make it work. Oh no. No. Where's that thing? kids. We the USA, yes. We have paid for that. This is a program, and I have contact with about a dozen teachers, so lots of English students at the high school will have contact, I hope, making pen pals. We pay for programs all over the world called Access, English Access Micro Scholarship Program. And children get 2 years of English lessons for free after school, 6 hours a week. And the criteria for participating is they have to be in one of those countries, and they have to be extremely poor. So if they're extremely poor in an already poor country, they're really poor. But did you notice that none of them were dressed like slobs? They were all dressed nicely. And that's one of the beauties of that country, maybe most poor countries. So I've taken more than 10 minutes, I know, thank you. Is it possible, can we take a picture with you guys with hats on? Can we do it? There's gonna be another hat.
I know my hat.
Okay, these are girls' hats. These are only for girls.
Okay.
And then we have to try the food, come on.
And then where's it going?
It is going viral. I guarantee you that. It will be all over the internet after this.
Might know where hers is going, you're not gonna know where mine's going.
Mine is gonna go to Tajikistan, I'll tell you that.
I love Phil's.
I love it.
I'm next
Oh
door
my God,
over
Phil,
there.
yours is so good.
You like that?
Love it.
All right.
Curl up the front a little bit.
Curl up the front.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, you guys are so cute. Oh, thank you.
I don't know, Tony is way too tall.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you. I will send it to you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's over there. I know
Oh
it.
my God, blackmail.
Everybody has to try it. All right, the food. This is yogurt. It will not kill you. Don't make a face.
Right away, at least.
No, don't make a face.
Have my water on standby.
All right. Don't make a
thank you.
face.
No, thank
Come on. It's not going to hurt you. You don't have to like it. Just be daring and try it.
have a beverage, so.
You don't need a beverage. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to hurt you. It's very salty,
It's very
very
salty.
sour,
I think I have some
and a
more.
little bit creamy. Woo! A little bit
Not
creamy.
quite into it.
Come on, it's not going to hurt
Come on,
you.
everybody in the audience has to get some.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Come
It
on.
tastes like bad cheese when you bite into it.
Oh, God.
That's a requirement for
Oh,
citizens'
come
comments.
on. It's 3,000 years old. People have been eating it for that long. Be
Wow.
brave.
It tastes like it's that old.
Oh, come on, be
The
brave.
salt part is definitely there. I don't know about the yogurt part.
blue cheese. It does, it definitely tastes like
Be
cheese.
brave, be brave. It does, yeah, it's not bad.
Thank you very, very much.
You can say you went on this road. Oh, I'm so sorry.
All right, I'm going to,
I promise you, it's not gonna hurt you.
you can pass it out, but I'm going to get on with the meeting, so.
Not gonna hurt you.
The next item on the agenda is if you could please call the calendar.
Tuesday, September 25th, 2018, there'll be a school committee business meeting.
Thank you. And next we have citizens' comments. So I'll call the people who've signed up. I do have a new timer. It's just so people know. We ask that you limit your comments to please 3 minutes. It just sort of, it'll turn yellow towards the end and then eventually flash red if you could wrap it up if it does that to you. So the first person on the list is Jennifer Harrison. If you could please come to the microphone and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Harrison. My address is 19 Bramblewood Lane, South Kingstown. Good evening. I'm here to talk about the possibility of a kindergarten addition to the district. I am also a kindergarten teacher, and I teach at Hamilton. As you may or may not know, the majority of us are at our cap, or one away from being at our cap, which is 19 students. It is extremely difficult to meet the needs of 19 5-year-olds who are attending full-day school for the first time. 5-year-olds need a lot of assistance with everyday skills. These skills include, but are not limited to, going to the bathroom, opening their snack, tying their shoes, zipping their jackets, getting into a straight line, cutting with scissors, and holding a pencil and crayon properly. At times, we need to write hand over hand to help them practice and master writing letters and numbers, which takes individual attention. Although these skills may sound simple, having to reach 19 students to help with these tasks can be overwhelming for the students. They want our attention immediately, so patience is another skill we teach them. Our concern is if the numbers go above 19, it will make it even more difficult to assist the children with their self-help skills. Additionally, we have to teach them academics. As you know, kindergarten has changed drastically over the years. The demands on the children are high. They need to end the kindergarten year on a reading level D, know a list of 45 sight words, write sentences, write numbers 0 through 20, know how to count to 100, and add and subtract within 10. Some of our children have little to no experience with going to school or come from daycares that focus mainly on play. They come with varying academic abilities. Some do not know the letters in their name or even the difference between a number and a letter, while others come in already reading. While planning to differentiate instruction, it makes it very demanding to reach all students with the class numbers being so high. We want to make the children feel that kindergarten, their real first experience at a real school, is a positive one. We want their first experience to be a happy and exciting one, filled with fun, not with tears and frustration, because there are so many of them. Having children placed outside of their home school also doesn't help their social growth while they watch their siblings or neighborhood friends attend a different school. Most of us share one teacher assistant between 2 to 3 classes. While the principals do their best to assign TAs, it is a challenge to support all of the children at one time. Events like using the bathroom and going to the nurse mean that oftentimes our TAs pulled in many directions and cannot be part of instruction time in the classroom. Our TAs are vital to the learning of our children. They are a large and important piece of the RTI umbrella. We also have children with IEPs and 504s that require additional modifications. Smaller class sizes would be beneficial to all students. If we have more than 19 students, meeting their needs become nearly impossible. With smaller class sizes, these challenges are not as overwhelming for the children. We're able to reach each child at their developmental level. With smaller class sizes, the children are able to learn about the curriculum, and their social and emotional needs are met more effectively.
Are you close to the end?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'll go
Thanks.
faster.
Sorry.
Kindergarten is the foundation of our school department. As with the foundation of a building, if you do not have the correct supports in place, it will collapse. The kindergartners in North Kingstown deserve the correct supports in place to be successful, happy, lifelong learners. We hope for the good of our youngest students that you will take into account the importance of smaller class size for the future of the students in the North Kingstown School Department. We urge you to please approve this agenda item for our children. And if a classroom was to be added, we feel it should be done as soon as possible in order to cause the least amount of disruption to our new learners. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person who signed up is Jake Mather.
Hi, I'm Jacob Mather from 135 West Allenton Road here in North Kingstown. I want to speak on behalf of class sizes as well. I'm a father of a 5-year-old kindergarten incapable little girl who depends entirely on her teacher's help to do everything. And just in general, my wife and I fought really hard to get all-day kindergarten at Hamilton for my son, and for everybody, obviously, but we were so happy to receive all-day kindergarten in North Kingstown so that Henry could he's in 3rd grade now, so that Henry can go to school full-time. And now I'm fighting again for smaller class sizes for my daughter and all of the 5-year-olds that are in school right now that are completely overwhelmed with everything anyways, let alone being in a class with 19 other 5-year-olds and one teacher and sometimes an aide. so I wanted to speak in support of that. I wanted to speak in support of Hamilton possibly getting the kindergarten, and I know it would be shared. Well, it would be a kindergarten for the whole district. Hamilton's got the room for it. We have had historically, just last year, had 3 kindergartens that one of them was cut, as you guys know. So that's about it. I also, well, no, that's not about it. It's not yellow yet, so. As for the disruption, for the possible disruption for students, I, as a parent, feel like it's early enough in the year that it wouldn't be a disruption for my kid, and by whatever little disruption there might be, and if it's a new teacher, if it's a new classroom, would be well offset by the reduced class size. So I don't feel like it's too late to bring in a kindergarten for this year. And again, as Mrs. Harrison pointed out, the sooner the better if we're going to make a change like that. But just wanted to let you know that I'm fully in support of it. Thank
very
you.
much. Last person on the list is Kate Schott. Scott, sorry.
It's fine. It's a hard one, I know. Hi, Kate Scott, 10 Jasmine Circle. I here am also speaking on behalf of smaller class sizes. I have a pre-K child right now, Cooper, who will be going into kindergarten next year, and a current second grader who went to Hamilton and benefited from a slightly smaller class, certainly not as small as I would have liked. And, well, we'll get to first grade in a second. But studies show that K to third grade benefits from having smaller class sizes. It allows an opportunity for the teacher to get to know each child and to not allow a child to fall through the cracks. And as much as we'd like to think that that doesn't happen, it does. You know, and I know Mrs. Harrison, I know Mrs. Brady. I'm a Hamilton PTO member, of course. We've seen a lot of each other. And they go out of their way, day in and day out, to act as second parents for these children. And when they have 18, 19 kids, that puts so much more strain on them and for what they're trying to accomplish. The requirements for kindergarten have changed over the years. The things our kids are expected to know is amazing. I don't know quite yet how Cooper's going to pull that together, but he will. But they haven't changed the way people are built. 5-year-olds are still 5-year-olds. They still need to nap. They still need to run around. And yet he also needs to know all of what Mrs. Harrison said and more in a year. And she has 17, 18 other kids like that. I just don't understand how each child is going to be the best student that he or she can be. And I'd like to think I'm an involved parent, and we do a lot at home, and that certainly speaks to how well, hopefully, he's doing. And my second grader, who went through kindergarten with Mrs. Shatowski, who, as you know, was cut and put into a second grade position. I'm really upset that Cooper won't get her. I feel that he did so well with her because she was able to take the time and to get to know him. And she was able to recognize what he needed in class and to help him grow. And I would say without that, without her, it wouldn't have happened. He wouldn't be as smart and as successful as he is now. Now I think about the first grade classes that are happening too. With 2 first grade classes at 24 kids, I don't understand how those teachers are able to get through anything that they need to get through during the day. My son was in first grade last year with 19 kids, and that alone was a challenge, and she had no TA. And the TAs are great when they're available. So yes, kindergarten, decreasing the class size there should be #1 priority, but as we think about it district-wide, I would like to put out the consideration for other classes. Hamilton does have the space with their empty classrooms. I think Jake has a great idea putting it there. It doesn't matter to me. But I think that recognition needs to be given to kindergarten first and then other classes as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And if there's anyone who didn't sign up but would like to speak, if you missed the list, that's okay. You can still come up. Okay. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. The first on my report this evening will be enrollment, and I will talk a little bit about the kindergarten numbers. Our enrollment, as things stand today, is 3,993 students in the district, and that is up 40 students overall, K through 12, in the district. That doesn't mean every class is going up accordingly. There's large fluctuations in the way things have gone. In fact, I think in most places, classes around the district, or at least school enrollment numbers across the district, have gone down. The big number that has gone up is kindergarten. There's no doubt about that. Back in May, when we were budgeting, we had projected about 206 kindergarten students, and as things are today, we're at 265. So that's 63 kindergarten students more than we had last year. Now, in response to that, as things have been occurring, we did add a kindergarten class district-wide. It was one that was moved from Hamilton to another school. And just to give you a sense of how fast things have moved, when we moved that class from Hamilton to Forest Park was about 3 or 4 kids over in kindergarten, and we were forced to put that class there. That class, over the summer, these are all enrollments that were new to us, didn't know were coming, is now full. In fact, every kindergarten class in the district is full with the exception of 2. There are 2 slots for kindergarten as of today. The policy that we have through our contract is a 19 cap, and then it goes to 24 for first and second grade, and 26 for grades 3 through 5. And those are arrangements that were made quite a while ago. I don't believe I was superintendent when those numbers were put out there. And so they are what they are. They're not necessarily the ideal, but they are certainly mindful of what we can afford. And as much as a small class size is a major priority, and I certainly get that as much as anybody, there are a gazillion other priorities that we need to be mindful of too, and there's only so much budget to accomplish all of those items. But to get back to the enrollment on that. So from this time last year, I talked about kindergarten being up. The other area that is up is the career and tech, or is the high school, up about 57 students over last year, and that's largely, somewhat, not completely, but somewhat due to the rising numbers for our career and tech program. And the career and tech program is, a great thing in that it brings more students to the school, and that allows for more kinds of classrooms to run. Now, those classrooms may be a little more enrolled, but it allows North Kingstown kids to have opportunities they may not have had otherwise, because with every one of those students comes a full tuition that we can use toward purchasing equipment, purchasing the teachers to run those classes, and that equipment and those teachers benefit so much more than just the students who are coming in from another town for that program. And not only that, but it just gives a really tremendous, jobs oriented education to so many students where that's the direction they want to head. So it's a very successful program there. Overall, and I'll just throw out some numbers about how things have jumped over the past 2 years, and this isn't necessarily a straight downward or a straight upward, but Hamilton, compared to 2 years ago, has 52 students less than it did 2 years ago. Fishing Cove has 23 more, Forest Park has 17 more, Quidnesset has 20 less, and Stony Lane has 10 less. So some of them are relatively flat. Hamilton is an area, and you see this with Wickford as well. Wickford is down 40 students over 2 years ago. So that part of town, for one reason or another, right now is not as accelerating in terms of that student population as we're seeing in other areas. There have been times, for instance, Hamilton and Forest Park were built at the same time, but Hamilton needed an addition that Forest Park does not have. The same is true for Stony Lane and Quidnesset. They were built at the same time, and soon after, Stony Lane got an addition that Quidnesset did not get. And that was because in those years, those neighborhoods were really, the enrollment was coming from those particular neighborhoods that were going into those schools. So these things have their trends. So on tonight's agenda, there is an item for the ad of a kindergarten teacher. My thinking in putting that there is that this would be, if we absolutely need that, if we happen to have 2 more students enroll in the district before the 15th day of school, which I believe is September 24th or the 25th, that would mean we would, by contract, have to add a kindergarten class. And that's, so it's kind of there as a placeholder. If that happens, I would need timely approval by the school committee, so I'm looking for a kind of contingency approval. We never know. We had a student leave the district from kindergarten today. We had a student enroll in the district from kindergarten today. Both of those we did not know about yesterday. That's how these things can happen. So that number, I don't think it will continue to rise, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did. So there are a couple of other things I want to talk about using my superintendent's report, and this is an item that will come back on the agenda, by the way. But we've had 3 really brutal days of heat to start the school year, and I just want people to know how much I appreciate their patience in making the decisions about early dismissals. I know that is not an easy thing for parents. The issue is, and sometimes in your child's school, for instance, if you're at Stony Lane or Quidnessa, there's air conditioning throughout the building, and you're wondering, well, why would they have to come home early? The problem is that in a lot of our schools, there isn't air conditioning all the way around, and particularly at the high school and the middle schools where there's like a 2nd or 3rd floor, that heat is absolutely brutal. And there just are not enough air conditioners spaced around in any way, shape, or form that will take care of that. And so you're really running into some safety issues with that. And we have a bond initiative coming up, and that would help at the high school. And I just think it's something that we need to be more and more mindful of, particularly with temperatures getting warmer in June and September, that as we continue to go forward. Air conditioning does not seem to be a non-item as it may have been thought of years ago in New England. It's not the same anymore. So there's that issue. And then I just want to follow up on the Quidnessa mold remediation. We've had a very successful cleanup there and everything, when we were able to start school on time. I reported to you last time. Since then, we've noticed there are some spots that needed to be either re-cleaned or some spots that either teachers noticed or someone may have noticed in a book or a Chromebook or something along those lines. When those things happen, as soon as we know about it, we're on top of it. If it's something that our custodial crew can take care of, they take care of it immediately. If it's anything larger than that, we have the people who did the remediation for us come back in. We have brought in industrial strength dehumidifiers that are on at night in that building to really make sure that the humidity stays away from that building as much as possible. And we are also looking, and we're going to be working through the facility subcommittee and coming to the school committee at some point over the course of the year to make like a kind of a dehumidification system within the infrastructure of the building, something that is more permanent, because Quidnessa can be kind of a swampy area to some extent, and it gets a little bit more moisture than most schools, and that was a big part of why this happened at Quidnessa and not necessarily at others. But the major humidity, I've heard reports that this was our most humid summer since 1973, had a lot to do with this. So the issue of keeping dehumidification on as much as possible, particularly at Quidnessa, is an important thing. And if anyone, whether you're here tonight or you are at home and you're watching this, want to ask any questions about the mold remediation at Quidnessa, I'm more than happy to take your phone call and sit with you if need be, walk you through what we've done. That's my report for tonight. Thank you.
I realized we went quick for presentations. Did we have any recognitions that I skipped up? Okay, just wanted to check. So, next items are our routine items. So first I'd ask for a motion to seal the executive session minutes of this evening, September 11th, 2018. Motion, Ms. Hoskins. Second, Mr. Robert Jones. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? passes unanimously. And I can disclose that no votes were taken at this evening's executive session. On the consent agenda, are there any items that any members would like to exempt from our consent agenda? No, hearing none then, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Motion Ms. Hoskins, second Ms. Hildebrand. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the school committee's approval of a submittal of the RIDE School Building Authority application, which relates to school safety. I'll make a motion on this that we, and just a brief commentary on it. It's a new program from the governor that would potentially allow us to receive some essentially sort of state funding for some infrastructure, school security related items. So if I could, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the submittal of the RIDE School Building Authority application in the amount of $175,000 in the hope that it gets approved and we receive some reimbursements from that.
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, section F, so for our newer members, we do have subcommittees on the school committee. Because we've had a change in the makeup, we need to rethink how we do it. Some of the committees meet more often than others. As a member of those committees, you are a part of, when and how often they meet. In your packet was an explanation of what each one does. I don't know if there are any people, I meant to write down who was on them before, but are there any particular, do you have that list? Great, thank you. Okay, so. Previously, for the first one on our list, which was the facilities subcommittee, Sheila McGovern, who's no longer a member, and myself were on that. I don't know if anyone has a particular, Sheila is an engineer by trade, so was uniquely suited to that subcommittee, and I hate to see her go for that and many other reasons. I'd like to continue on that one. I don't know if anyone has any particular thoughts on the other ones that they particularly wanted. We don't want to give anybody 3, but we kind of all need to chip in a little bit.
Is this the total number of subcommittees?
So the
All of
ones,
them?
so we have the facilities subcommittee, the policy, which deals with, we've already voted on a couple policies. They sort of take a first round, work with the administration on, which ones we're going to do. We kind of do a comprehensive review of them on a regular basis. Wellness is a state-required subcommittee. By statute, we have to have a wellness subcommittee, which deals with wellness issues within the schools. And same thing with the special education, special education, what's the L, sorry?
Local advisory.
Liaison, local advisory committee, which works with parents as well. And that one's a little bit more parent-driven, but we send as much as possible school committee members to that one. And then facilities is one that works with, we were just talking about matters like the air conditioning. All of our facilities-related bids, awards, and projects get forwarded to them. They're a group of volunteers in the building trades who volunteer a tremendous amount of time and expertise to sort of take a look at that and then recommend back to the school committee on what we should do in those areas. So the first one being facilities. Is there anyone who wants to raise a hand and volunteer to be on that one? We've got to fill them all, so. I can, all right, I can come back to that. Was there, any of you have a particular interest? Well, Jenny, you were on wellness before. Can't do wellness anymore, okay. Bob, you were on policy before. Do you want to continue to do that? Okay. Do we need to reappoint the people who are, should we just do it all? No, so we'll just, all right. So our vacancies are on facilities from Sheila, policy was Raina, and Jenny, if you're saying you can't do wellness, those are our
So I can
3,
do
and you were
policy.
on CELAC as well. Do you want to continue
I'll
on
do
CELAC?
CLAC and policy.
Okay. So did anyone want to jump in instead of, are you guys okay with that? We can do Ms. Hoskins to CLAC and policy, which would leave the two of you with wellness and facilities between the two of you.
When does the facilities meet?
We don't
Roughly?
have a standard meeting, it's usually when we need
Mhm.
something from them. So the last time we actually met was May. We'll have one coming up pretty soon. I'm in touch regularly with the chair.
And then just roughly the night
Tend
of
to
the
be
week?
roughly around 5 PM.
And you know,
on a
it's
weeknight.
really not a,
Okay.
it's kind of like, I send out an email and say,
Mhm.
can I get the majority of the people for X night?
Yeah, if it's flexibly scheduled like that. I'd be
And I'll be
interested.
frank, I mean, I don't make all the meetings. I mean, we try to get to as much as we can. You know, if you can't make a meeting, it's, you know, it's not the end of the world. But we
You're not
try
gonna
to.
think
You're not
Comes out
gonna
of
send
the
the truancy
subcommittee.
officer after me?
No, we do not.
Just
But
so
we
you-
reserve that right.
And you all know that everything that comes out of the subcommittee comes
Comes
to you
before
for
us,
all of your approval, so you're in on every discussion, regardless of what subcommittee you're on.
Exactly.
It's a great group. It really is.
So you want to
Yeah.
grab that one? Okay.
I think that leaves me wellness.
I
which
think it does.
Probably makes more sense to me
Okay.
than facilities, to be honest.
No problem. All right. So, let's do these in order. So, we don't need to reappoint anyone who's already on it. So, I will make a motion to appoint Mr. Tony Jones to the Facilities Subcommittee. I could have a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Robert Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next, for policy, because that does have a vacancy, I'll make a motion to appoint Ms. Hoskins to the Policy Subcommittee vacancy.
Second.
Second from Mr. Jones, and all those in favor?
Aye.
And I will make the motion to appoint Ms. Hildebrand to the Wellness Subcommittee to fill that vacancy.
Second.
Second from Mr. Robert Jones. All those in favor? And for CLAC, we're not making a change, so we don't need to do anything, so you'll remain on there. Okay. That takes care of that business, and so our clerk will add you to, you know, the notices, or work with the people who run those committees to make sure that you know when they are and when they're planning on scheduling those meetings. Next, we have 2017-18 school budget, 2018 and 19 school budget, CIP bond, existing bond, or future bond. Dr. J?
So,
For future bond.
Yes, so there is a future bond coming up, and that is in November. We will be in North Kingstown voting on question 4, and that is a bond for $27 million, half of which would go to the school department for much-needed infrastructure needs. We are in the process of beginning an informational campaign on this. The brochure that all the members on the stage have tonight, and I have a few extras if anyone wants one after tonight, but these are being printed up as we speak, and they kind of outline the different buildings and what each needs. The major items of the $13.5 million are the Davisville Middle School windows. If you've ever worked in Davisville Middle School, you know that they need new windows in a real bad way. And they've needed them for many, many years. The last bond we had took care of the roof, but it really needed to be the roof and the windows then, and that bond only went so far. So that's a need. Also, this would get air conditioning for the second and third floor at the high school. We already talked about that. That need it is brutal at that school in particular. Air conditioning was in the original design of the building. It was taken out last minute as a money-saving move. I wish they hadn't done that. I think a lot of high school students along the way and high school teachers along the way have felt the same way. This will be a real unique window of opportunity, as they say, to get this done. And another major item on this is the renewal of the North Kingstown High School Community Athletic Complex. So this would get a synthetic turf field at our high school and would renew the track. Right now, we cannot use the track for any competitions at all. It is not safe for students to run on in competition, and that's a shame. This should have been taken care of about 10 years ago or so, and it was always one of those items that got pushed down the road because the funding just wasn't there to do it. So this is a real opportunity for us to do that. And that would also very much increase the ability for us to use it. Right now, that field has to lay dormant for much of the time because you really have to preserve natural grass for the actual varsity games that play on it. If you use it for much of the practices or anything like that, the field goes muddy and unplayable. It gets a lot of ruts and it gets unsafe very quickly. So a synthetic turf field, you can use it 24/7 essentially, and so all of our teams have options for that, and also the community has options for that. So a lot of like local football leagues and soccer leagues and things like that can have some options for getting on that field. So it's a real community project that would benefit us in so many ways. There's so much more playability that way. Other schools, and these are outlined in this brochure, which will be going out very soon via my email, but also we'll have better, glossy printed copies of this within the next week or so. Some of the major improvements at the elementary schools include new floor coverings at many of the schools, improvements to electrical boxes and HVAC items and things that aren't as sexy as the new athletic field, but is still absolutely needed for every building. So every building has different needs that they've needed for quite some time that are addressed with this, and so this money would go a long way in really helping us to address a lot of issues that we felt we needed to address for a long time. So I wanted to make that point tonight and let people know that I will be attending every PTO in the next month or so. We are also setting up an informational night on the athletic field. That will be a school committee meeting that takes place at the high school on October 16th. So anyone is particularly interested in seeing, hearing from the architects about what the field would look like and what the differences are, and have questions about synthetic turf and the new track and all, that will be a night where we can answer questions about that. And I'm working with Mr. Mollis right now on setting up another informational night at the high school, and for any other community group that wants to hear from us about the bond in its entirety, not only the $13.5 million for the school department, but also the $13.5 million that would make up the town's piece of that bond. It's a very significant bond for our community. The other bond that is coming up is the $250 million that is set aside for school construction. That has been, that effort has been led by Governor Raimondo and endorsed by the legislature. And I would also say, I can't speak enough about how important that could be to the school department as we look to, these kinds of projects going forward. So I definitely see us as being able to benefit from that bond as well. So that's all I have to say. I don't know, Mrs. King, do you have anything to add on the bonds? Okay.
Okay, next, in your packets are some disposal notifications. Unless anyone had any questions on those, we have reached the end of our agenda. I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. A motion, Ms. Hoskins. Second, Mr. Jones. All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.